So I'm a little bit confused because I feel like they should have just called the movie Old Man. Am I right?
Oh yeah.
Don't pity laugh. That makes it worse. This is episode 3 of I Finally Saw, where today I finally saw Old Boy. Well, hello and welcome, all you lovely people, to another episode of I Finally Saw. Once again, joining me here today is Marquise. Say hi, Marquise.
Hello.
That's
What's
your cue.
good? What's up? I know.
Okay, that's enough of that. Andromeda is also joining me today,
Hello, everybody.
and I am also joined by Will.
Oh, hey.
Didn't see you there.
I heard something.
Didn't see you there. Didn't hear you there either for our audio listeners. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into it today. As you've heard and read, we are talking about Old Boy. So to briefly introduce the movie, here's a snippet I stole from Wikipedia because I am too lazy to write anything myself. Old Boy is a 2003 South Korean action thriller film directed and co-written by Park Chan-wook and is a loose adaptation of the Japanese manga of the same name. The film follows the story of Odesu, played by Choi Min-sik, who is imprisoned in a cell resembling a hotel room for 15 years without knowing the identity of his captor or his captor's motive. When he is finally released, Daesu finds himself trapped in a conspiracy web and violence as he seeks revenge against his enigmatic captor, played by Eugene Tai, and his quest becomes tied in with romance when he falls in love with a young sushi chef, Mido, played by Kang Hae-jung.
오, 대수. 아, 내가 뭘 지적됐냐고! 뭘 해줘! 일간 한번 찾아뵙겠습니다.
아, 필요 없으니까요. 오지 마세요.
내 맘입니다, 이 10cm가.
As I understand, Andromeda, you've prepared some historical context to provide for us.
Yeah, I think you definitely touched into what I wanted to touch on. And before we sink our teeth into the movie, I wanted to go back to every adaptation of it. So we have the manga from that at least started, I would say, like 1996 through 1998. And then it was adapted by Park Chan-wook in 2003, and then Spike Lee did a remake of it in 2013. So I just wanted us to focus on Park Chan-wook's work specifically, but I also wanted to talk about Wook's other films because Old Boy is actually part of an unofficial revenge trilogy.
Vengeance.
So it started out with Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, which he made in 2002. And then he did Old Boy in 2003, and then Lady Vengeance in 2005. And out of these three movies, Old Boy was the most successful, and it currently sits as the 52nd highest rated movie on Letterboxd, which, if you don't know, it's essentially a social media platform used to share your film opinions, as well as logging movies you've watched. And I wouldn't say this movie pioneered the Korean new wave of cinema, but many people would argue otherwise. I think Old Boy and Parasite are typically the movies you would think of when you think of Korean films.
누구냐 너?
뭐 내가 중요하진 않아요. 왜가 중요하지.
날 왜 가둔 거냐?
잘 생각해봐요. 문제 풀면 채점해 줄 테니.
First of all, as we usually do, let's sort of go around and ask. I'd like to ask everybody, what is your familiarity with this movie prior to our preparation for this discussion? So I'll start with Andromeda. Andromeda, how familiar were you with this movie before getting ready for today?
I was familiar with it only because I saw it in theaters with one of our mutual friends, and it was really fun because a theater experience for me is always the best experience for any movie I'm going to watch.
Amen.
I can watch it completely undistracted. And I watched it with a friend, and we saw the restoration version that Neon did, so I think that was very exciting because I watched it preparing for this episode on DVD, and the quality just wasn't the same. Like, nothing beats a good theater experience for me.
Marquise, what about you? How familiar were you with this movie?
So the first time I ever heard about this movie was, I think, like early 2023. James Gunn had did a video talking about his top 5 comic book movies, and and Oldboy.
Wait, Marquise.
I don't know what it's
Wait, Marquise.
Yes.
Are you a fan of James
Yes.
Gunn's work?
No, I hate the guy.
Oh.
I'm joking.
Anyways.
I love James Gunn.
Anyways.
Love all of his work. But yes,
Thank God someone said it.
but no, it was a video, and it was titled his top 5 comic book movies, and Oldboy was, I think, 4th on that list. And so later that year, 2023, they did like a limited like re-release of the movie in theaters for its like 20th anniversary, I believe. The same like neon version that Andromeda was talking about. And I had went to go see the movie with Dayton. Actually, we saw it twice. And so that's when I first like saw the movie. I had absolutely loved it, and I'm very excited to talk about it today. That's why I got like the old boy hair kind of thing going on right now.
Your look was inspired by Oldboy.
Yes, it was.
Wow.
I didn't know you were giving that. I always thought you reminded me of him.
You know, this whole time I was like, "There's something about Keith today. I can't put my finger on." All right, Will, we're throwing it over to you now. How familiar were you with this motion picture before prepping for this discussion?
So I think the first time I heard about this movie was like in my high school film class. We watched the famous hallway fight scene.
Oh boy.
Which I don't know if it's appropriate for high school audiences, but we watched that entire run through because my teacher thought it was really cool. But after that, when I first saw it, it was the restoration Andromeda was talking about. I think it was back in August 2023, which was the 20th anniversary of Oldboy, because it came out in 2003. So I went to go see that, and I thought it was brilliant. I think it's one of the best edited movies ever, and just I think it's paced amazingly. But yeah, I love it.
I think, speaking for myself now, I think I was aware of this movie. This is one of those movies that, like, I don't know what the right term for it is. I don't know if you would call it like a cult classic or something. But it's definitely like, once you it's one of those movies that I hear so much as a point of influence. You know, oh, you know what I would compare it to? It's like the hallway fight scene oneer, which we'll get to, but it's like that's like up there with like the Akira bike slide, which is just that, like, whenever there's like a oneer in like an action movie, it's like they're gonna maybe reference that or something, or it's always compared to that. And so, like, I think I was aware of that. I was aware of there was a big famous oneer in a hallway, and that he eats an octopus at one point. And I think that was pretty much the extent of my knowledge on this movie. So I feel like I went into this movie pretty blind. I had no real idea what the premise was, which was definitely not exactly what I expected it to be, shall we say. So yeah, I went in with a relatively clean slate, seeing it for the first time in preparation for this.
노루가 사냥꾼 손에서 벗어나는 것 같이 새가 그물 치는 자의 손에서 벗어나는 것 같이 스스로 구원하라. 이 음성 들은 적 있냐?
Well, then yeah, I guess then we'll just go ahead and shift into what we sort of think and feel about the movie then. Andromeda, I'm curious, what are your sort of overall thoughts about this movie?
I want to start with a trigger warning because this was a really tough movie to watch, and I want to address rape and incest. So if that's a topic that's sensitive for you, then I guess don't continue listening or watching, because the movie gets pretty in-depth in that. And it's hard for me to think of this movie as a masterpiece solely because of the rape and incest being so graphic. And I can't deny the fact that it's still a really solid movie, but I also, like, as a woman, have a hard time grappling with why he had that in the first place, because to me it more or less feels like Park Chan-wook did it more so for like shock value. And there's actually a quote I want to read, and he said, "A lot of scary men come up to me and told me that they were fans of my movie. The reason for making my film, Lady Vengeance, was actually for that exact reason. With my movies after that as well, I had a lot of strong female characters. I think the gender ratio of my fans has evened out now." So I think to make a whole movie to address those issues is all well and good, but I still have a hard time coming to terms with like why he did it in the first place. Like, did he have to show that graphically, or did it really serve a purpose in the story? Because I could hear arguments either way, but that's what makes it difficult for me, like with the movie as a whole. Because even rewatching it, I was like, I know what's going to happen, and it still makes me sick to my stomach to watch. You know,
It caught me incredibly off guard, and I've seen a number of movies. I've seen a number of movies that feature characters having, physical relations. But there was definitely something about the way it was done here that was, and I guess intentionally so, but nonetheless, like, incredibly off-putting to see on screen. And so that definitely caught me off guard. It feels weird to me that this is classified primarily as an action movie when I sort of got to the end of it, because I don't really think it is for the most part. I think it has action sequences, but this to me much more feels like a dramatic thriller more than anything, and I think those moments especially. And so that was sort of interesting, because this movie's sort of like up there, and the stuff that people really only sort of remember and talk about with this movie, the impression I've always gotten is the action. It's like, oh my gosh, the action's crazy, action's crazy. And so that's what I was sort of going into. I was like, oh, okay, this is like a well-regarded action movie. This is going to be like Monkey Man or something. And this isn't really that necessarily. It's a very much a sort of a hard, dramatic character study.
I will say I greatly enjoyed the movie. I think it has a lot of great action directing. It has like a lot of great fight scenes, but I do agree that it's definitely more of like a psychological drama and thriller, almost like the same effect of Sounds of the Lambs almost. I will say I was not caught that off guard by the twist reveal. Only because when he's like me and Dayton also talked about this, but like when he's like released from prison and he like immediately like goes to this girl's house because he falls asleep or whatever, and she takes him back home. I was like, well, if he was in prison for 15 years, they mentioned his daughter at the beginning of the movie. I was like, this might be his daughter, and that's when like I kind of like got this kind of like unsteady like feeling in my stomach, kind of. But like I had seen it coming, and then it was almost confirmed when we find out that Odesu had seen Lee Woo-jin and his sister having relations, and so I was like, oh, that might be the case. But even past that, I think it kind of lends itself to like a really deep thought and question of almost like morality, and was like. And was Lee, and it almost like kind of raises the question, was like Lee Woo-jin kind of justified for his actions? I don't think so, but it kind of links up that question, and it is like, it is Odesu and Mito to blame for this. But I do understand how that's like off-putting and kind of hard to watch, but I think it's necessary for the story being told.
Will, what about you? What are your sort of thoughts on this?
I mean, I was blind, like, as a whole, like, besides, like, the whole. Because I thought it was going to be an action film as well, like you were told. And it turned out to be, like, one of the. Like, a really good, like, thriller. And especially, like, I was kind of surprised that it came out in, what, like, 2003? How early? Because I think it looks really good, like, especially with the restoration. But, yeah, I love the scene of the guy with his dog that crashes into the car near the beginning. And he turns around, he has his sunglasses on. That part gets me every time, but yeah, the squid eating scene I knew nothing about, and everyone in, like, the theater was kind of like reacting to it like they knew it was gonna happen, and I was like, what's going on?
Wait, so I don't know about this. Is that a real squid that they just like killed and ate on camera?
I would assume. I don't know how you would get that like effect otherwise.
Wow. For the love of the game.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's better
I
than
almost have to respect it.
it's better than
That's crazy.
it's better than eating an octopus you're in love with. You know what I mean?
Have you been in love
Not
with an
to get too-
octopus? What does that
not-
mean?
No,
What
not
is
not
that
to get too
supposed to
deep.
mean?
I don't get the reference.
What is
I'm confused as well.
what is that supposed to mean?
It's a reference from The Boys. If you know, you know.
Well, that's what I was thinking of because when I think of like octopus media, or like the fact that there are 3 scenes that come to my mind, like, is really crazy actually. Because Old Boy, obviously, but then you have The Boys, and then you have like the octopus teacher. That's what I think of whenever I think of an octopus.
Wasn't that Oscar-nominated documentary? Didn't it win? I don't remember. I believe it was an Academy
I don't
Award-nominated
remember.
documentary, Octopus Teacher, which is this documentary about a guy that totally doesn't want to make out with a cephalopod.
It is the documentary ever.
It is. I will say this: it is definitely one of the documentaries of all time. It is one of the documentaries of all time. I will definitely say.
Definitely recommend if you haven't seen it.
blown away.
Yeah, you should definitely watch it on your own time. I'm very torn about this movie because oftentimes I think I need to sort of process things because I had an idea in my mind of what I thought it was going to be. And that's why I try to go into these things as blind as possible because I find you can get in your way, sort of, and if you stick too much of that idea of what you thought it was going to be, you may never fully open yourself up to what it actually is. And so kind of partway through the movie, I had to sort of like take a breath and be like, okay, this is much more of like a character-driven thing. This isn't awesome action set pieces. This is character study. And I was sort of left in a strange place because I think I know, and obviously it's not the responsibility of a movie and a filmmaker to always spell everything out. But I feel very sort of split about this movie because I think I understand and I felt what the filmmakers wanted me to feel. But I can't necessarily... But this is like a movie that, like, I see it and I'm like, this is a movie that I definitely think is trying to say something. And I feel like I completely missed it. Because to some degree, this just kind of feels like an exercise in misery. And maybe that's the point. But there's so much sort of there about sort of, you know, there's these mantras that appear throughout the movie, these sort of like proverbs that sort of are repeated as motifs, and there's so much intentionality behind like the dialogue that I'm like, I feel like there's something to be said, and not that they didn't spell it out blatantly enough, but that I sort of, for a moment, I felt like when this sort of ended, I was just kind of like, I don't know if I get the point of what all of that was. Like I do get sort of, I feel like I understood the emotion of it and what they sort of wanted me to feel, but in terms of like, was there an idea they really wanted me to walk away with? I don't know. Because like I said, this for me, it was just kind of like, this is an exercise in suffering. And that could have been the point. Like I said, I don't know. I acknowledge that it's entirely possible that, like, in my sort of, I don't know, being naive, it just completely flew me by.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you guys sort of feel.
I think my favorite part of this movie was the fact that I walked into it completely blind. I didn't know what it was about. I had never watched a trailer. I never even listened to a review of the movie. I just knew it was playing and that I wanted to go see it, you know? So going into like this sort of like mystery, because this movie does play itself out like a mystery thriller, and so like I was kind of just like with Dae-soo every step of the way because I had no clue what this was about, and to me, I feel like the moral or sentiment of the story can get lost if like you don't know exactly what you're looking at. But what I kind of feel is it's more about what your sense of morality is and what your sense of justice is. It's like I think it's more. I think again it poses like the question of was what Lee Juin the villain what the villain did was what the villain did was justified. Like was forcing Odesu to sleep with his daughter the same as Odesu kind of letting the entire school know that he had slept with his sister? Is that even? I don't know. But that I think that's the question that the movie asks upon you to figure out for yourself. And I think it also questions you: is vengeance worth it? Right? Because I think my favorite line in the movie is when Lee Woo-jin is asked Odesu, and he's like, "You're asking the wrong question. It's not why did he lock me up for 15 years. It's why did he release me after 15 years." And it's like, at any point, Odesu had the option to just forget about it, to let it go, and go about the rest of his life. But no, he was obsessed with figuring out why the villain did it, and getting his payback for it. And it's like, in doing so, he set up his downfall. He slept with his daughter, found out he slept with his daughter, and now he kind of has to live with that for the rest of his life. Where if he had just let it go, he would have been okay. And so I think the movie really ponders the question: is vengeance worth it?
I feel like, well, I'll say after I watched the movie in theaters, they did another like special interview type of thing. So we got to hear more of what made Park Chan-wook's gears tick about this movie. And he was talking about how after other commercial successes, so like after Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, he wanted to create a movie that was maximalist, for a lack of better words. He had the power and the freedom to create whatever he wanted. So I don't necessarily think, like, I think Marquise's points are valid as far as like themes and takeaways of the movie, but I more so feel like Park Chan-wook created this movie to kind of have fun with it, like just make something so crazy and outlandish that you're gonna watch it and then afterwards be like, what the f did I just watch? Because you, like, the stuff he does is insane, like the Wonder fight scene, the octopus, like all the stuff we've talked about. But the gore too, like we didn't talk about the teeth pulling scene. That one is also really popular in this movie, and it's like, it gives me a visceral reaction when I think of it, because the audio and then the visuals, like, he shows everything all the way through, and it like makes me cringe. I'm like, ooh, I don't want to think of that or see that. So I think it's less about what we need to actually take away from it, and more so that it was just a fun watch, even if it is still off-putting in a lot of ways.
Well, but Will, what about you? Do you think there's some sort of deeper hidden meaning here that's just gone completely over my head, or are you more so on the side of this is just sort of a wild ride?
I mean, I think Marquise explained it really well about like the justice and the matter of is it really justice in that case, considering their situations. What I find the most interesting is how he got so manipulated into doing all of those things in the film, and like it leads to like finding out those things later in the film being like kind of like a shock value type, like the thing with his daughter and whatnot. But yeah, it's something I do need to do more research on for the movie,
I guess just my thing
because
is that
there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot here, and I think my sort of stance on it is that like I don't think, and maybe again this is just sort of my personal bias, but I don't think a lot of the morality that's sort of present in this movie is as gray as I think the filmmakers want it to be. Like, I'm just kind of like if I mean, you know, it was of his own sort of volition that he sort of peeked in on the scene that was happening between the two siblings. That's true. And he made the effort to go all the way there to sort of check out what was happening. But I'm like, he told one person, and it's like, you know, he needed to get that off his chest. And then I know the movie sort of tries to explain it by being like a grain of sand or a stone both sink to the bottom of the ocean the same way. But I'm just kind of like you like chose to do that to your sister, and then somebody just like talked about it to their buddy, and you're like, this is all your fault. And it's just like, no, like it's not his fault at all. He told one person, that other guy who started the rumor about like, and he kills that guy, and then it's just like, I'm gonna get revenge on you by making you have like an incestuous relationship with your daughter and you didn't even realize. And it's just kind of like I don't think I like valid freak out, in my opinion. Like valid that this guy goes to the ends of the earth to like kill him at that point, because it's just like this guy, like I don't feel sorry for this guy at all. I don't feel sorry for the bad guy at all, because it's just like you basically assaulted your sister. If anyone's responsible for her death, it's you. Not like multiple times over, because you did that to her, because you didn't stand up for her, because you let her go, and then you want to lash out at somebody because you're like this little boy that's never grown up. And then I'm like, the whole movie, and again, this is maybe what I wanted sort of getting in the way of what the filmmakers are trying to do. But like that whole scene, I'm just like, why is he groveling? Like, I don't think he did anything wrong up until he's like, please erase the memories of the knowledge that I know that this is my daughter. Where I was like, okay, buddy, so then what's the plan from here on out then, if you don't want to know that anymore? I just like, that's sort of my kind of thing, is that like, I just don't, I'm like, it feels like they're trying to do, I can kind of see what you're coming from with that whole like morally gray thing, but I just, maybe again that's just my biased opinion about it, but I'm just like, I don't think this is morally gray. I don't think this is a story of just like, was he justified? I think this is a story of this like man-child that could never get over, that could never like accept taking accountability for the abuse that he inflicted on another person, and so he creates this scapegoat that he never lets go of. You know, in some ways, I think the person who really kind of destroyed his life is the bad guy, because he's just like he told one person this like crazy thing he saw, and it's just like, if you saw someone like assaulting another person like that on school grounds, you wouldn't tell anybody.
I don't.
You wouldn't like feel compelled to get that off your chest. Like, he wasn't gossiping. He's like telling his close friend, like, dude, I saw this crazy thing. He didn't even know them. And then his friend is the one who perpetrates this rumor. and he gets his just desserts to some degree. So it's just like that's my kind of stance on it, where it's just kind of like I don't know what the phrase is, but it's just like the punishment doesn't fit the crime, and that's sort of where I'm getting to, where it's just kind of like this is an exercise in cruelty, and it kind of just I do sort of see that perspective of like this. It just sometimes just kind of feels like what's the most like bonker, what's the next most like crazy out there thing. I would be interested to look at the source material. I didn't have a chance to do so.
Oh, so
but I'm like, does
so
like
that's
is are those like incestuous overtones like as big of a part of the source material as they are here?
no. So what I find very interesting is that the movie is completely different from the manga. Like from characters to character motivations to like what happens. So to put it faintly,
Yeah, give me a rundown.
the manga. Yeah. So to put faintly, the manga starts out. Odesu just got like released from or it's not even Odesu. His name is Gino in the manga, and he gets out of the prison, and the movie the manga almost relays the storytelling kind of like Arrow, where like the story's following his modern day, but we keep flashing back to the points where he's in the prison, like how Arrow flashes back to the points where he's like on the island.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand that reference, and yeah, but like he meets a girl at a diner. They sleep together, but that's like it's never revealed that his daughter. It's not his daughter in the manga. It's not his daughter. The bad guy, like he never saw the villains have sex with his sister. The reason that the bad guy throws him in prison in the first place is because Gino saw the bad guy singing at like a talent show in like middle school, and he was so moved that by the performance that he started crying, and the bad guy just didn't like that. And so the entire manga is about him trying to figure out why the bad guy put him in prison, and then get his vengeance. And so the only similarities that I could find with the manga and this movie is the fact that he's in prison, like he's in like a hotel room prison. He trains to like eventually get vengeance and find out who the person that put him there is.
Dude.
He sleeps with a girl considerably younger than him as soon as he gets out, but it's not his daughter. And then I guess that the villain is super petty and has not such a good valid reason of locking him up. And I guess a fifth one just to round it out is that Gino essentially never gets to have his revenge, because as soon as he finds out who the villain is, the villain kills himself, and he's like, haha, you didn't get to kill me, you'll never get your vengeance. And then like Gino and Eri, the girl that he sleeps with, kind of lives happily ever after. But then Gino continues to have nightmares about his Eri killing herself, and it's just kind of volatile to the, not volatile, but like it lends itself to like the influence that the villain had on his life and will continue to have on his life. And it's kind of ended off by this line is like, I think he may be dead, but he won. But that's the only similarities that this movie has to the manga. Other than that, the plot is almost completely different.
Yeah, I don't know what the what the move was. Like, I just can't imagine coming in to pitch that and being like, this is what this story needs, bringing it to the screen. This is what I need to do with this story. I just don't know I don't know where that comes from. And maybe he has his reasons, and maybe they've completely flown me by in my viewing experience. I fully admit that sometimes I'm just not perceptive enough to pick up on some things, and I need to sort of look into it. But I just like, especially finding out that has, and there's lots of things that take liberties with source material, but this is like a thing where I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand, and like it feels strange. Like, and I wouldn't say that I didn't enjoy the movie, right? Like, I do think they're like part of their like. I remember hearing a like to sort of liken it to something. I remember hearing an analogy or something that somebody once explained about like why test screenings are so difficult. And it's sort of how I remember internalizing this story to sort of how I sort of think about movies. But the person said something, or it's like, you might make a movie and then you test screen it for an audience, and there's a scene in that movie where a dog dies. And then at the end of the movie, you ask the test audience what they thought of the movie, and somebody in the audience is like, oh, I didn't like the scene where the dog died. Does that mean that the scene worked or that the scene failed? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Did it work because the audience member didn't like how that made them feel, and that's what we want to do? We want to put them emotionally in a negative place. Or did the scene fail, and that's why they don't like it, because it it didn't bring them to that sort of emotional climax that they wanted it to. And so that's sort of hard to discern. And that's I've sort of taken that lens, how I think about things, where it's just like, I think this is like a brilliant example where it's like, someone might not like this movie because of the emotions and the places that it takes you to. And I think I kind of try to make that distinction of just like, I understand that like the movie is trying to send me to that place. And I can, appreciate that, and I think it does those things effectively. But there is also, for me, sort of this line of just like, but why? What is the, like, what's the, that's, yeah, like, I think that was sort of the question I was, like, sort of running through my mind as the clock was sort of ticking down on the runtime, as I was like, what is the goal here? Because, like I said, they're reiterating these mantras, about when you smile, the whole world smiles with you, but if you cry alone. Like, that keeps coming, and it literally comes into play into the ending of the movie when he banishes the knowledge of the fact that his daughter is who she is, and then they embrace, and she's like, I love you, and he smiles, and it slowly turns into this horribly pained grimace, and you just get this pit in your stomach of just like, oh god, like, where do they go from here? And I'm just like, I guess I know that's the point. I know to some degree I feel that the point is sort of that, like, those emotions, but I'm just like I said, I've sort of said it a few times now, but I'm just like, I feel like I'm just like not certain, like, why this angle, why these sort of like very graphic, very poignant, I don't know what word you would use, like, incestuous angle. That's where I'm just kind of like lost, and I know I keep like sort of coming back to this point, and again, that's not to say that there aren't aspects of this movie that are really well done. I do think that a lot of the performances are really well done. We've talked about that hallway fight scene, which is, I know, iconic for a reason. This movie is very visceral. I think if I had to pick a word, it's very visceral. You feel it. You feel this movie both emotionally, but also very physically, with stuff like the octopus. And even the moment, like, when he first sort of shows up in the prison, and it's just him keep trying to push his head through this little hole. Like, I felt that. And that makes moments like a lot of the intimacy physically in this movie sort of sharper than it's felt in other things. Pricklier, I guess, if I had to pick a word. And I think at times it sort of, like I said, that sort of carnal sense with this movie is to its benefit. Like, when you have those sorts of moments, like another moment that really stands out.
I actually want to kind of add something onto that.
Yeah.
I'll let you finish your thought first.
Yeah, one moment I think of is the moment where he's sort of fighting the bleached haired henchman near the end of the movie, and like almost all of the sound is cutting out, but you still just like feel everything that's going on there. But then there are other moments where you're just kind of like, oh god.
I want to take it a little bit back to how we feel about the movie and kind of the reactions we have towards it. One thing that I have a really hard time understanding is the way Park Chan-wook wrote the women in the movie, because they're just not in. It's honestly like misogynistic in my perspective of it. I feel like the women in his movie don't have much of a place than to serve the men. And the first woman that shows up is the woman with like the really funny sunglasses. And in the next scene, we see Dae-soo wearing the sunglasses, and then the woman is in the background talking to this police officer saying like, hey, he attacked me, he took my sunglasses. And then as that's happening and he's walking away, it's comedic because of the fact that a man also jumps off the roof, which was the man that he was talking to.
The dog!
Before he even got in the elevator.
He's like
with the
holding
dog.
a little doggy plushie and it flops all over the place.
But that being the first encounter with a woman is like, it's comedic, but it wasn't put in a good light. I still feel like he's in the elevator, like both hands on the wall, like trying to stay away from this woman, and then he takes the sunglasses.
Andromeda. I imagine. Well, I mean, I don't mean to speak on behalf of women, but I imagine that if you pressed an elevator button to get on the elevator and you got like, I don't know, your business bag or something and your sunglasses, and those elevator doors open, and there's just this guy Spider-Manning it up in the corner with like the widest eyes, just completely wide eyes, just like, would you? I feel like you would be a little hesitant to get in that elevator, you know. So I can imagine, like, it is kind of funny, but it is also like, I mean, I would be freaked out to get in there, you know.
I don't think that's a woman thing. I think that's just a people thing.
That's fair, but you know, it is like, and I think the only other like female character that's like really a character before that point is just the hypnotist, and she has like one scene really quick, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's the woman that
There's a
he's hitting
couple.
on at the police station.
Right, but she's
But,
basically an extra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another thing I wanted to mention was that we obviously don't know that this is his daughter, but when he goes into the sushi restaurant, he's like, I recognize you because I watch so much TV, that's the only thing I can do because I'm locked up, that you're like on this cooking show at 5 o'clock on this channel. And I think it's interesting Park Chan-wook brings up the fact that she is this renowned sushi chef, but then like it's never brought up again. We never see her with sushi at all until, I mean, technically he is searching for the man that locked him up to begin with. And the reason, like, I don't even know where I'm going with it. I just feel like bringing that up, that detail that she's like this world-renowned chef, is really weird if you're not going to do anything else with it.
Well,
because again, like, he's kind of just bringing it up. I don't know.
It's interesting because they also
purpose.
emphasize the fact that
disagree.
she's not just a famous chef, but it's like women making sushi. I guess they kind of make a point in the movie is kind of like a cultural anomaly,
I disagree. I think it's just a simple way of explaining why like that Odessu has like already has like some sort of infatuation with her, right? Because I mean, to put graphically, there's that scene where he's masturbating to the singer on the TV. So I would have to assume maybe he did it to her, and that's why he like knew like he already had an obsession with her, and then why would she? And to explain the fact that she'd be on TV is that she's a world-renowned sushi chef, and it would make sense for him to meet her at a restaurant. But
But
I
why
think
have the woman singing, and why not just play his daughter making sushi on the TV? That's the part that's confusing to me. Like, if he's infatuated with her, why not just directly show the woman making sushi, and then you're gonna connect the dots of, oh, I recognize you from this because I saw you making
Or
sushi.
if they're gonna do the whole like scene because I like from scripts like I'm thinking director brain, right? He wants to do that because he wants to set up that song as an idea because then it shows up later when they're on the lam in the car, right? So if you want to do that, I don't understand why not just make her a singer at like the dive bar, right? Like that's a thing. Like
Right.
dive bars
Yeah.
have singers.
Yeah.
She's just like, and then he sits close to the stage, and then she's like, "You look lonely. I can fix that," or something.
That's true.
right? Like,
that's a very valid
I
point.
mean, I don't
Because
know.
we wouldn't have the iconic octopus scene, I guess.
He could still eat the octopus.
He's
It's
like, I need to
iconic.
figure out some way to do this.
It's iconic. No, I mean I don't know.
He's hungry.
Like I do agree this movie treats women very weirdly and just
Like,
flat
he's
out wrong.
agreeing?
But there's also the scene where he just ties her up.
What? Like,
That was weird.
no, yeah. So like there's a scene that he ties her up. There's a
And then
scene that
leaves
she's
her
like,
there.
I'm gonna sing, yeah, to get and then she gets assaulted, and then there's like the scene where she's like, I'm gonna sing this song for you, and that's when you know you can take me, and I might reject it, but I want you to like keep going. And then there's like the scene where they have sex, and she's like very weird. Like it treats her such like an object, and it's very weird. But that again, that might go like to the themes of the movie, but it is odd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she never. Yeah, I don't know. Like, especially where she sort of ends up, where she's just kind of infatuated with this older guy, and he willfully buries the knowledge of their nature of their relationship, and then, like, for all we know, they just kind
Yeah.
of live together for like that's. And I get it. Like, this is maybe sort of the intention to sort of fill you with this thing about this. Like, look how much he's kind of been rotted away and destroyed because of this experience and what he's done. And again, that could maybe that's the point. But and so in that case, if you wanted to make me feel weird, hats off to you, I guess, because you did it.
I think
and that's a success. But yeah, I don't know. I think
I mean
she doesn't have a lot of autonomy. She's very much more so almost like a plot device more than anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Literally she is, and I don't know. I feel like again the ending it just kind of leads to like Odessu's kind of karma because like even like put the him starting the rumor aside, right? It's like a throwaway line in the movie, but I think it should have touched more on this. That like he had slept with like a lot of married women, right? And so that's part of the reason why he didn't know like who put him in like any of those like he was saying like any of those men could have put him in prison, right? And so that kind of like also lends itself to like this guy was not a good person even before he went even before he got thrown in that prison. So it's like maybe it's just like karma. I don't know. I will say that this movie has one of my favorite villains. Even though he's not, I don't think he's justified. I just think like this is like just an evil guy, and I kind of I like his portrayal. I should say.
You heard it here first, everybody. Marquise is a big fan of incestuous women abuser guy.
No, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of bro.
I'm not a
I
big fan.
I just like I like.
He's a large fan. you could
no,
say.
Very wide
he's like
fan.
reverse. He's like reverse Flash incarnate, and I don't know, like his plan
It
is
was
so
me, Barry.
evil to
I
me,
tricked
but,
you
like,
into
I was
kissing
gonna
your
say.
daughter.
no, exactly, no, but like, exactly.
I
like,
remember that arc in the comics.
No, but it's just like I love like how he moves throughout the movie. It's like he has like his initial meeting with Odessu, and
With his legs?
he has this official meeting with Odessu, and he's just kind of like, and Odessu's like, I'm gonna kill you, and he's like, no, then you won't find out why I did it.
He did
And
say
he's
that.
like,
That's true.
no, and exactly. And,
That's true.
And then he
he
has, like-
actually
and then he-
wags his finger in the movie and he goes, "Nuh-uh."
he does. No, he literally does.
Yeah, that's why I said
He
that.
does do that. Okay, he does do that, and then like he's like, I have a heart monitor, so like I'll kill myself before you have the chance to kill me, and then you'll never find out why I did it to you. And then the movie goes on. Odessu finds out. He goes to confront him, and then he's just kind of like, this is why your daughter. You slept with your daughter. I made you sleep with your daughter. Haha, suck it. And then when Odessu finally and so when Odessu because they make the agreement that if Odessu finds out why the villain did it, the villain will let Odessu kill him, and he supposedly does, right? So he gives him the control to like his pacemaker, and not Odessu. The villain starts walking away into the elevator, and Odessu hits it. This thing that is supposedly supposed to kill the villain, but it just starts playing the recording that they had of Odessu and his daughter, having relations. And I just think that's so like criminally evil and almost like almost a mesmerizing type of way. Now, I don't know like the word.
You just love this. What about you, Will? Are you a big fan of this this guy? Are you a huge fan of him and what he does?
Oh, the villain?
to people? Yeah. Do you love?
I don't
This guy.
necessarily love his ambitions, but I thought some of his scenes were done really well.
Okay.
Like there's like the transition of him in the elevator. He was like holding the hand and he cuts back. Thought that was really cool.
My favorite transition in
Yeah.
the movie is when the train just materializes out of
Yeah,
nothing.
I love that. I love that
They
so
mask
much.
it. They mask around
Some
it.
train.
Okay, I think I got to reel it in here, everybody. So did anybody have any last things they wanted to say before we start closing out here?
I actually want to have a closing thought about the ending of the movie.
Okay.
It is a little bit ambiguous, in my opinion, or at least some of the reviews I've read of it seem to be ambiguous. And so what happens is the hypnotist is like, I will erase the knowledge of what you know, and that this is your daughter. And she's like, I don't really owe this to you. I don't want to do it, but the reason I'm doing it is because of what you said in your letter. And he said, even though I'm no better than a beast, don't I deserve to live? Which kind of is another theme that we didn't really talk about, but kind of open for interpretation, right?
Mhm.
And so she hypnotizes him, and Daesu is with his daughter, and they hug, and we get a close-up of his face, and just his reaction to the hug is a little bit ambiguous. So do we think that he actually forgot everything, or does he still know?
I think it's kind of like I think it's kind of like almost like amnesia. Like he has like pieces of the puzzle, but he can't see the whole thing. You know what I mean? Almost like that type of thing.
Kind of like a dream you had that you can't really
yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and bring us home then. So, I'll start with Will. Would you recommend this movie to people?
It honestly depends, because I guess like if you're new to foreign cinema, I would recommend it, especially like Asian films, I'd recommend it. I think it's one of the best out there. But it does touch on sensitive topics that I wasn't aware of going into the movie. Was there like a warning in the beginning
Not for me.
that it
I
showed,
don't
or
think
you just
so.
okay? That's something you definitely need to do when recommending this movie. So,
Yeah.
but other than that, I think if you're studying filmmaking in general, I'd watch this. It's fun.
Marquise, what about you? Would you recommend this movie to people?
I mean, I would. Obviously, like Will said, it would just depend on like if this person's open to watching the foreign media and how I guess strong their stomach is when it comes to the graphicness of the movie. But I would recommend this movie. I think this film, despite its implications, is still amazing in the way that it's shot, in its storytelling, and just in the questions that it arises.
And then Andromeda, I'll throw it to you now then.
I personally would not recommend this movie because I feel like if you're going to start down the road of foreign films, this is not a good movie to start. I think this is kind of, once you have your toes dipped into the water, this is like a good way to go. But even as far as Korean films, I think that Parasite is a better introduction into it. And I also think if you're just going to go into this movie, you're going to get more out of it than knowing. And that's difficult because if you put a trigger warning in the beginning, I feel like it's going to give away the twist. So, all that being said, I could not in good faith recommend this movie.
It's a very narrow group of people because I do think there is a lot of brilliance on display, and I think if I had to lean one way or the other, I do think this is a good movie, a really well done movie that I enjoyed, I think is the word. That doesn't necessarily, I think a movie doesn't necessarily have to make you happy for you to look back on it and say you enjoyed that, you know. And I wouldn't necessarily say that this movie made me, you know, super duper happy, but I think I enjoyed it because I rode the wave the way it was intended to be. I think by that same metric, I recognize that I'm a person that can stomach a lot especially without any kind of forewarning. So yeah, I very much agree with Andromeda and that like there's you're sort of it's tricky because it's like those heavy subjects so very much kind of hinge on shock value, on you not knowing that that's going to happen when you first go in, that to tell people that that's going to happen, you're sort of potentially spoiling a big part of the movie. But also there's a lot of people where it's just like you just can't do that to them. Like it's just not fair to them to not give them that heads up. I think if you're deeply engrossed in international cinema, if you're engrossed in cinema period, and you feel like you're sort of getting there to you're more well versed and you want to dip your toes a little bit deeper into the waters, then I do think this is a fascinating piece to study. But if you're first, I agree with Andromeda, if you're first kind of dipping your toes into beloved cinema, into international cinema, I think there are still challenging but more broadly appealing palettes out there for you.
안 돼! 큰일 난다! 손도 대지 말았지!
지금 빨리 와주면 안 돼요?
All right, well, I think that's going to bring this discussion to a close. Thank you all for joining me, and I love you all, and good night.